The Rainmaker Princess. Long ago, in a village forgotten by time, the people lived in harmony with the land. Their days were marked by the steady rhythm of nature, with fields of golden grain waving gently in the breeze and rivers running clear as crystal. The rains came when they were needed, nourishing the crops and filling the villagers' hearts with gratitude. It was a land blessed by the gods, or so the elders said. But those times were long past. The once thriving village now stood on the brink of collapse. For 7 years, the rains had ceased, and the once fertile soil had turned to dust. The riverbeds had dried up, and the crops, without the life-giving water, withered beneath a relentless sun. The villagers had tried everything: prayers, offerings, even dances to invoke the rain, but the sky remained empty, a vast, pitiless blue. In the midst of this suffering lived a young girl named Anna. At just 7 years old, Anna had never known the rains that her parents spoke of with such longing. Her memories were only of drought, of cracked earth and wilted plants. Yet, even in the harshness of their reality, Anna remained a beacon of light in the village. She had a quiet strength about her, a resilience that belied her years. Her beauty was not just in her appearance but in her kindness. She was the only daughter of her parents, two humble farmers who, despite their poverty, had given her all the love they could. Anna had always been close to her father, who would often sit with her by the dying fields, telling her stories of the village's prosperous past, of days when the rain came like clockwork and the land was green and abundant. The village, however, was now on the edge of despair. The crops had failed for the 7th season in a row, and the last of the livestock was on the verge of starvation. The villagers had begun to whisper of ancient curses and forgotten sins. There was no explanation for the unrelenting drought, no reason for why the gods had turned their backs on them. Desperate, the village elders, old, bent figures with deep lines etched into their faces from years of worry, decided to seek the gods' counsel. They gathered in the village square, their faces grim, and called upon the people to accompany them to the sacred mountain. The journey would be perilous, but there was no choice left. The village had run out of time. On the appointed day, the villagers gathered what little they could, a few stalks of grain, a handful of incense, and began the long trek up the mountain. The sacred mountain had always been a place of mystery. It was said to be where the veil between the mortal world and the realm of the gods was thinnest. The air there was thick with the scent of old magic, and many villagers feared its heights. But now, they climbed it with hope in their hearts, hoping to find the answer to their plight. The ascent was slow and arduous. The mountain path was steep, winding through sharp rocks and ancient trees that groaned as though bearing the weight of centuries. When they finally reached the summit, the elders led them to the stone altar, blackened by centuries of offerings made to the gods. The villagers knelt before it, laying down their meager gifts, and began to pray. For 3 days and nights, the villagers fasted and prayed, their voices rising in a chorus that echoed across the mountain. On the 4th day, when their voices had grown hoarse and their bodies weak from hunger, a great rumbling filled the air. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the skies darkened. The villagers gasped and looked upward as a booming voice filled the air. "Why do you call upon us?" the gods demanded. "The rains have ceased because of your sins. You have angered us, and now you must pay the price." The villagers, trembling, pleaded for mercy. "What have we done to deserve this? Our children starve, our crops die. Please, tell us how we can make amends." The gods were silent for a long moment before they spoke again. Their voices were deep and menacing, like thunder rolling across the sky. "You have forgotten the old ways," the gods said. "You have lived in comfort for too long and have grown careless in your worship. To restore balance, a sacrifice must be made. You must give us the purest soul among you. Only then will the rains return." The villagers froze, their hearts sinking. The purest soul. Whose life would they be asked to give? Bring us the child called Anna, the gods decreed. A stunned silence fell over the crowd. Anna's parents clutched each other in shock. How could this be? Their daughter, their beloved Anna, had been chosen as the sacrifice. Tears welled in her mother's eyes, and her father clenched his fists in helpless rage. The elders exchanged grim looks, for they knew there was no other way. If they refused, the village would perish. But how could they give up a child? Anna, standing by her parents, had been listening quietly. She understood what the gods were asking. Though she was just a child, she saw the fear and sorrow in the eyes of the people around her. She loved her village, loved her parents. And though she was afraid, she could not let her people suffer any longer. I will go, Anna said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her heart. If my life will bring back the rain, then I will go. Her parents wept and held her close, their hearts breaking at the thought of losing their only child. The villagers, too, were filled with sorrow, but they could not stop what had been decreed. And so, preparations were made for Anna's sacrifice. The gods had demanded that Anna be taken to the cursed forest, a place of ancient evil that lay beyond the farthest edge of the village. The cursed forest was a place of darkness and death, filled with demons and spirits that fed on the living. No one who entered ever returned. To send Anna there was to send her to certain doom. On the morning of the sacrifice, the entire village gathered. They formed a solemn procession, walking with Anna to the edge of the forest. The air grew colder as they neared its boundary, and the trees loomed tall and twisted, their gnarled branches reaching out like claws. The villagers could not go any further, even the bravest among them dared not set foot in the cursed woods. Anna stood at the edge of the forest, her small figure dwarfed by the looming darkness. Her parents hugged her one last time, tears streaming down their faces. Be brave, my daughter, her father whispered, his voice thick with emotion. We love you more than anything. Anna nodded, her heart heavy but resolute. She stepped into the shadows of the cursed forest, her footsteps soft on the leaf-strewn ground. As she walked deeper into the forest, the sounds of the village faded behind her, and an eerie silence settled over her. The trees seemed to whisper as she passed, their branches swaying in a wind that she couldn't feel. The deeper she went, the darker the forest became. Strange, twisted roots curled up from the ground, and the air was thick with the scent of decay. Anna could feel eyes watching her from the shadows, but she did not stop. She had no choice but to continue forward. After hours of walking, the first demon appeared. It was a grotesque creature, with skin like cracked stone and eyes that burned like embers. Its mouth stretched into a wicked grin, revealing sharp, blackened teeth. You've come to die, little one, it hissed, its voice like nails scraping over stone. The gods sent you here, and now you will join the others who came before you. Anna's heart raced, but she did not flinch. She had always been brave, and though fear gnawed at her, she stood her ground. I am not afraid of you, she said, her voice trembling but strong. The demon lunged at her, its claws outstretched, but as it neared her, something extraordinary happened. A bright, golden light burst forth from within Anna, surrounding her like a shield. The demon shrieked and recoiled, unable to touch her. The light grew brighter, and the demon, with a final wail, dissolved into dust. Anna stared in shock at the glowing light that surrounded her. She didn't understand where it had come from, but it gave her strength. She continued deeper into the forest, her steps more confident now. More demons appeared as she walked, each more terrifying than the last. Some had wings like bats, others had long, snake-like bodies, but none could harm her. Each time they attacked, the golden light flared, and they were driven back or destroyed. Anna realized that something deep within her, a power she hadn't known she possessed, was protecting her. At last, after what felt like days of walking, Anna reached the heart of the cursed forest. There, in a clearing surrounded by towering, blackened trees, stood a massive stone altar. Dark figures moved around it, their shapes shifting and swirling like smoke. These were the gods who had demanded her sacrifice. "You have come, child," one of them said, its voice booming like thunder. "You have accepted your fate." Anna stood tall, despite the fear that still flickered in her heart. "I came because you demanded it," she said. "But I will not let you take my life. I will not let you harm my people any longer." The gods laughed, a cold, cruel sound that echoed through the forest. "You are but a child. What power do you have to defy us?" But Anna's heart was full of the light that had protected her. She raised her hands, and the golden light that had saved her from the demons flared once more, brighter than ever before. It filled the clearing, casting out the darkness. The gods recoiled, their smoky forms twisting in agony as the light consumed them. "You may be gods," Anna said, her voice clear and strong, "but I am not afraid of you. Your reign of cruelty ends now." With those words, the light burst forth in a brilliant explosion, shattering the altar and driving the gods back into the shadows. The darkness that had hung over the cursed forest for centuries began to lift, and the trees, once twisted and blackened, began to return to life. The demons fled, their power broken, and the forest was freed from its curse. Anna stood in the clearing, breathing heavily, but victorious. She had faced the gods themselves and triumphed. As she made her way back to the village, the skies above began to darken, not with the shadow of the gods, but with clouds. The first drops of rain began to fall, soft and cool on her skin. By the time she reached the edge of the forest, it was pouring. The drought was over. The villagers, who had waited in anxious silence, were overjoyed to see Anna emerge from the forest. They had expected to lose her forever, but instead, she had returned victorious. The rain, a gift they had feared they would never see again, now poured down upon them, soaking the earth and bringing life back to the land. Anna's parents rushed to her, embracing her with tears of joy. The villagers, seeing the power and courage of the young girl, knelt before her, hailing her as their savior. From that day forward, Anna was known as the Rainmaker Princess. In honor of her bravery, the village crowned her as their princess. Her father, once a poor farmer, was made king, and her mother the queen. Under their rule, the village flourished once more. The rains continued to fall, the crops grew tall and plentiful, and the people lived in peace and prosperity. But they never forgot the courage of the young girl who had ventured into the cursed forest and defeated the gods themselves. Anna, the Rainmaker Princess, would be remembered in legends for generations to come.